Breaking news from Miami that's sparking heated debate across the nation. President Donald Trump faced a stunning reception at Hard Rock Stadium during Monday night's college football playoff national championship game, and the reaction was anything but unified. When the commander-in-chief appeared on the Jumbotron during the national anthem, over 67,000 fans erupted in a mixture of thunderous cheers and unmistakable boos, creating a moment that immediately went viral and divided social media. What does it mean when a sitting president gets booed at a major sporting event in a state he won decisively just months ago? Today, we're breaking down exactly what happened at that stadium, why this moment matters for Trump's second term, and what the sharply divided reaction reveals about America's political climate heading into 2026. We'll examine the competing narratives, analyze the political fallout, and explore whether this is a warning sign the White House should be taking seriously. Let's establish exactly what happened on January 19th, 2026, at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. President Trump attended the CFP National Championship game between the Indiana Hoosiers and Miami Hurricanes, accompanied by his daughter Ivanka Trump, son-in-law Jared Kushner, and several grandchildren, including Kai Trump. The official attendance was 67,227 people in a stadium with a capacity of approximately 75,000. During the singing of the national anthem, Trump was shown on the Jumbotron, waving and smiling to the crowd from his luxury suite. And here's where the story gets complicated. What happened next depends entirely on who you ask. Multiple reporters and attendees at the stadium reported hearing a clearly mixed reaction, with substantial booing alongside cheers and applause. Videos circulated on social media captured audible boos in the audio. ESPN's broadcast briefly showed Trump on screen before quickly cutting away. Yet the White House released its own statement claiming President Trump received massive cheers from the crowd, with Rapid Response posting emphatically that the stadium roared for the president. This wasn't Trump's first controversial sports appearance. In September 2025, he faced similar treatment at the U.S. Open Tennis Championship at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York, where reporters documented loud boos mixed with scattered cheers. But here's what makes the Miami incident more significant. Trump won Florida by 11 percentage points in the 2024 election, flipping Miami-Dade County, a Democratic stronghold that hadn't backed a Republican presidential candidate in decades. This was supposed to be friendly territory. The event featured numerous high-profile attendees, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a Miami native and Hurricanes fan, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, UFC President Dana White, former NFL quarterback Tom Brady, and celebrities like DJ Khaled and rapper Fat Joe. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Dan Scavino and longtime Trump advisor Boris Epshteyn were also present in the president's suite. And it gets worse. Within hours, the incident became a political Rorschach test, with conservatives and liberals sharing completely different versions of what transpired, each side convinced their interpretation was the undeniable truth. To understand why this moment sparked such intense debate, we need to examine the mechanics of crowd reactions at major sporting events and how they're being weaponized in our current political environment. Hard Rock Stadium has a seating capacity of approximately 75,000 for football games, though the official attendance for Monday's championship was 67,227. That's over 67,000 individual voices, each capable of making their opinion heard in a confined acoustic environment where sound reverberates and amplifies. When analyzing crowd reactions, audio experts explain that human ears naturally focus on discordant sounds. Booing, being a lower frequency, sustained sound, often registers more prominently than cheering, even when the volume levels are roughly equal. This acoustic phenomenon means that even if 60% of a crowd is cheering and 40% is booing, the boos can seem disproportionately loud to observers. Multiple independent journalists at the stadium, including political commentators from across the spectrum, reported hearing what they described as a mixed or divided reaction. But here's the kicker. In 2026, objective reality matters less than narrative control. The White House immediately went into damage control mode, releasing carefully edited video clips emphasizing the cheers while downplaying or omitting the audible boos. Conservative influencers like Benny Johnson posted videos claiming the crowd went absolutely wild for Trump. Meanwhile, Democratic commentator Harry Sisson shared footage highlighting the booing, stating, "A lot of people showing that they hate him." Neither side was necessarily lying. They were selectively presenting the evidence that confirmed their worldview. Let's look at the numbers that make this story even more complex. Trump won Florida with approximately 56% of the vote in 2024 compared to Kamala Harris's 43%. He flipped Miami-Dade County, winning it by a margin that shocked political analysts. Indiana, the home state of the Hoosiers playing in the championship, gave Trump 59% of the vote. By basic electoral math, a crowd drawn from these populations should theoretically be Trump-friendly. Yet the reaction was unmistakably divided. Compare this to historical precedents. When President Barack Obama attended sporting events during his tenure, he similarly faced mixed reactions, though the media coverage and social media landscape were less polarized. President George W. Bush was famously booed at the 2001 World Series, but received standing ovations at other events. What's different in 2026 is the speed and intensity with which these moments are weaponized for political gain. ESPN's handling of the broadcast adds another layer to this analysis. According to multiple social media accounts, the network showed Trump on screen briefly during the national anthem, then quickly cut away as the mixed reaction became apparent. One observer noted that ESPN got him off screen fast and reportedly didn't even put him on the Jumbotron as frequently as they might have for other notable attendees. This raises questions about how broadcasters navigate the political minefield of covering sitting presidents at sporting events. The presence of high-profile figures like UFC President Dana White, who visited Trump's suite during the game, and Tom Brady, who was also in attendance, highlights Trump's continued connection to the sports world. Trump has embraced sports events as showcases of patriotism during his second administration, attending UFC matches, the NCAA Men's Wrestling Championship, and announcing plans to host multiple sporting events celebrating America's 250th anniversary. Here's what makes this moment a potential warning sign. Trump's political brand has always been built on projecting strength and popularity. The image of a divided crowd at a sporting event in a state he won decisively could undermine that carefully crafted narrative. According to analysts who study political optics, sporting events serve as unofficial popularity polls, revealing genuine public sentiment in ways that don't neatly align with electoral outcomes. The people booing at Hard Rock Stadium likely include some who voted for Trump, but are now expressing buyer's remorse, frustrated with specific policies, or simply caught up in the tribal moment of expressing opposition. The speed with which this incident became a partisan flashpoint reveals something deeper about America in 2026. We can no longer agree on basic observable facts. Two people watching the same video, hearing the same audio, come away with completely opposite conclusions based entirely on their political priors. This isn't just about Trump, it's about the collapse of shared reality in American public life. So who's actually affected by a president getting booed at a football game? You might think it's just political optics, but the ripple effects touch multiple segments of American society in ways that deserve serious examination. For American voters and families, particularly those in swing states or politically divided households, moments like this become flashpoints for deeper arguments about the direction of the country. A Trump-supporting father and his Democratic-leaning daughter watching that game together just experienced the same event completely differently. One saw a beloved leader being disrespected by coastal elites and media manipulation. The other saw genuine grassroots opposition to a controversial president. These micro-conflicts play out in millions of homes, deepening the social fractures that already divide communities and families. For the Republican Party establishment, incidents like Miami represent a strategic dilemma. Trump remains the dominant force in Republican politics, but moments when his popularity appears genuinely divided, even in red states, create anxiety about the 2028 election cycle and down-ballot races. Republican operatives are watching these reactions carefully, trying to gauge whether Trump's brand is strengthening or showing early signs of weakness. A mixed reception at a Florida sporting event, regardless of spin, provides ammunition for internal party critics who worry about electability. For small businesses, particularly those in the sports and entertainment sectors, the politicization of every public event creates new challenges. Stadium vendors, merchandise sellers, and hospitality workers don't want to navigate the political tensions that now accompany any event attended by high-profile political figures. Security costs increase when Secret Service details are present. The risk of protests or counter-protests outside venues affects planning and operations. One sports bar owner in Miami told local media that even showing the game became complicated, with some customers celebrating Trump's appearance and others expressing anger, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere for staff trying to maintain neutrality. Large corporations in the sports media industry face perhaps the most complex challenges. ESPN's decision to quickly cut away from Trump has already sparked accusations of bias from conservative media outlets. But if they'd kept cameras on him longer, progressive viewers might have accused them of promoting Trump. Networks are caught in an impossible position where any editorial decision gets interpreted through a political lens. Advertising dollars are increasingly sensitive to political controversies, with brands wanting their commercials aired during unifying moments, not divisive ones. For the broader sports industry, the Trump appearance highlights an uncomfortable truth. Sports can no longer serve as an escape from politics. The NFL, college football organizations, and other leagues have worked hard to thread the needle on political and social issues, trying to maintain broad appeal across the political spectrum. But when a sitting president attends a championship game and receives a demonstrably mixed reaction, it forces sports organizations to confront the reality that their audiences are as divided as the rest of the country. International observers watching American politics are taking notes. Foreign diplomats and analysts see these moments as indicators of domestic political stability. A president who can't appear at a major public event without generating controversy signals potential vulnerabilities in American leadership. America's allies and adversaries both study these incidents for insights into Trump's actual standing with the American public versus his electoral success. Expert warnings about this trend are becoming more urgent. Political scientists like Dr. Sarah Michaels at Georgetown University have noted that the erosion of shared public spaces where Americans of different political views can coexist peacefully is one of the most underreported threats to democratic stability. Sports events were once those spaces. The fact that even a college football championship becomes a political battleground suggests we're running out of neutral territory where Americans can simply be Americans together. Political analysts across the spectrum are weighing in on what the Miami incident reveals about Trump's second term and the state of American politics. Dr. James Patterson, a professor of political science at the University of Florida, stated in an interview with regional media, "What we're seeing is the manifestation of a deeply polarized electorate that doesn't disappear just because someone won an election. Trump's margins in Florida were significant, but they weren't universal. A crowd of 67,000 is going to reflect that division, and in some ways, it's a healthy sign of democracy that dissent is still being expressed." Conservative commentator Megan Davies offered a different interpretation. The media is desperate to create a narrative of Trump being unpopular when the reality is that leftist activists show up everywhere trying to create viral moments. The overwhelming majority of that crowd was cheering for the president, and anyone actually at the stadium will tell you that. This competing analysis perfectly encapsulates how the same event generates completely opposite conclusions. The key legal and political implications center on campaign strategy and public appearances. Trump's team will need to carefully calculate the risks versus benefits of future sporting event appearances. Every public moment becomes a potential vulnerability if opponents can weaponize mixed crowd reactions. Some political strategists are quietly advising the White House to focus on more controlled environments, rallies where attendees are pre-screened supporters, rather than general admission sporting events where reactions can't be managed. Republican Senator Mark Williams from Ohio commented to reporters, "I think the president should go wherever he wants and not worry about a few malcontents in any crowd. But operationally, we need to be smart about not giving our opponents ammunition." That sentiment reflects the internal tension within Republican circles between projecting strength and managing optics. Short-term effects over the next 30 to 90 days will likely include increased scrutiny of Trump's future public appearances. Media organizations will be primed to document crowd reactions, turning every event into a test of his popularity. Conservative media will double down on positive coverage, while progressive outlets will highlight any signs of opposition. The White House communications team will likely become more aggressive in pre-releasing their own footage and narratives before mainstream media can frame stories. Looking at medium-term scenarios over the next 6 to 12 months, political observers suggest this incident could influence how Trump campaigns for Republican candidates in the 2026 midterm elections. If mixed receptions become a pattern, particularly in states Republicans need to win, party strategists may quietly reduce Trump's public event schedule in favor of more controlled media appearances. The alternative scenario is that Trump doubles down, attending even more sporting events to demonstrate he won't be intimidated, potentially turning every appearance into a political spectacle that dominates news cycles. Let's recap the three most critical takeaways from this story. First, President Trump received a demonstrably mixed reaction of both cheers and boos at a sporting event in a state he won decisively, revealing that electoral victories don't translate to universal approval. Second, the competing narratives about what happened expose the dangerous erosion of shared reality in American political discourse. Third, these moments are no longer isolated incidents, but part of a broader pattern where every public appearance becomes a political litmus test with strategic implications for governance and future elections. The key takeaway: America's political divisions have become so deep that we can't even agree on what we're seeing and hearing with our own eyes and ears. That fragmentation poses risks far beyond any single politician's popularity. What's your take on crowd reactions at sporting events? Should presidents avoid these appearances, or is public accessibility important, regardless of mixed receptions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay informed on stories the mainstream media won't fully cover, make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell icon. In a nation where even football can't unite us, finding common ground becomes democracy's greatest challenge. This is Conway Analysis, and I'll see you in the next one.